Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Star Gagnant, a modern retro-styled shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Terrarin Games and publisher Regista, Star Gagnant released for the Nintendo Switch in May of 2023. This title is an interesting retro-styled throwback. It's supervised by the legendary Takahashi Meijin of Hudson Soft fame. One of the things that Meijin is known for is his rapid-fire button presses, specifically in shoot-em-ups like Star Soldier. And that's the series of games I feel that Star Gagnant is most similar to, is that Star Soldier franchise and that idea of design. So if that kind of classic vertical scrolling shoot-em-up is the games you like, then this is one that you should check out. There is a demo available, so you can definitely check it out that way. But with that said, one thing to note, I do feel the price point might be high for the overall content the game has in it. That takes us into the argument of how much a game is worth to an individual, and there's no correct answer there, but is one thing to note is the price point is higher than most other shoot 'em ups that you can compare it to. With that said, diving into the main menu, we're taken to our mode select here, and you have a couple options for experiencing the game in. There's of course your main arcade mode, which we'll be looking at, the caravan mode where you set as high a score as possible, in this case in 2 minutes, a challenge mode where there are 12 series of skill tests to challenge yourself against, and rapid fire, which is a multiplayer mode where you're trying to just press the button as fast as you can for 10 seconds. You'll kind of get the idea why that's in there, but it's one that I kind of feel was unnecessary to add in. Still, it's an additional feature. Starting arcade mode, we're taken to our difficulty selection. We have easy, normal, and hard, and there's also a Meijin mode that you can unlock once you complete hard. Today we'll be taking easy, and then we're taken to our stage select. So one thing to note, this is similar in setup to many of the other Terrarin games that are out there. So if you are also a fan of Terrarin games, this is one that I encourage you to check out. So any of the stages that you've gained access to will be available under your difficulty selection of choice. So of course we'll be starting this one in the first stage, Space Station. We start by piloting the Starfighter Strahl. And right off the bat, I want to note that this game is relatively simple from a mechanics standpoint, as far as your buttons at least. So we've got one button that will adjust our speed. It's displayed there in the bottom left, and it can adjust from, well, we start at 2, and it can adjust up to 3, then it cycles back around to 1. Honestly, I do feel that 1 works pretty well. I usually like the mid setting for speeds in most shoot 'em ups, but the lowest one actually strikes a good balance in my mind. The only other button we have is our fire button, and this one is where the game gets unique in an interesting throwback style. So holding down our fire button does give us rapid fire, but it gives us this weaker rapid fire. So the main mechanic that makes Star Gagnant stand out is that you can rapid fire the button for a more powerful special shot. That even uses up an energy gauge. So that energy gauge is on the left there, noted under the special. The special shot is necessary for a lot of enemies, as the larger enemies are too strong to defeat with your standard shot. Like as you can see there, I had to go and focus on them the entire time, but they're made short work of with the special shot. Underneath the special gauge, you go and see the rapid fire, so you can see how fast you're pressing it. So the special shot goes from 3 colors. It's weakest at yellow, so that's just barely like tap firing it. Then you've got like the green, and then you've got blue as its like strongest color. And that's the main mechanic. We also have several different pickups that we're getting. So I mentioned the special gauge. The yellow pickups that have the SP label there, like this one here, will fill up your special gauge. So it's important to keep that in mind, as that is crucial to keeping your weapon at full power. We also have the green W's, and these power up our weapon. It initially starts off at level 1, you can power it up to level 3, and you've probably seen it get stronger in my gameplay. There's also a couple other power-ups. There's a blue one with an S for shield that gives you an additional hit you can take. And there's a rare purple F, which will take you from base power all the way up to full power. So basically shield level 3 and full SP or full special meter. So here we are fighting the first boss. So we can like hold down the button and you can kind of see just how little damage your main shot does against the enemy. While you're not shooting your special, it does recharge, so you don't necessarily need to collect the energy for it. That's something to keep in mind. But you will take out the enemy significantly faster if you're rapid firing. And hence all the button presses that you're hearing me like hit here. A mechanic that is an odd choice for this type of a shoot 'em up, in my opinion. It's not the kind you'd see in most modern shoot 'em ups. It's almost backwards. So I thought like that decision was interesting, but given Meijin's history, it makes sense. So there are some other really neat features. So one of the options you have in the settings is to go and change to a retro look for the game. This is basically 8-bit. And I feel they did a really excellent job with the presentation of this particular like retro like graphic look to it. It really fits the game, and in a lot of ways I kind of feel it's more appropriate to what they were going for than even like its more modern look, and I really appreciate its inclusion. There's also a chiptune soundtrack in addition to the original soundtrack, so that's something you can keep in mind. So here we find ourselves to our first sub-boss. So most of the stages in the game actually have two bosses. You have your mid-boss and your like stage boss. And I kind of like the design that they went through for both the fights themselves and the just basic visual look of the enemies. So a little bit about the comboing as well. So the comboing is very in line with the other Terurin games that are out there. We'll build up chain for each enemy defeated, and then once the chain meter runs out, we'll be given 100 points for every multiplier in the chain. You can see the score log there on the bottom left. We also see our score, high score, and extend like totals there on the right as well. So this like boss here is really neat. It's one where you have to set yourself up. I guess that's not necessarily a boss, but a stronger enemy. You have to set yourself up inside all those like various connecting pieces, and if you can tap fire fast enough, you'll destroy that enemy for really big bonus points. And that's one of the really the last things that kind of makes this game very much a throwback to a classic era, is all those like random bonuses that are just peppered throughout the game. So there'll be a lot of enemies where if you destroy multiple enemies or multiple segments at the same time, you'll get a bonus. If you destroy an enemy in a particular set way, you'll get a bonus. There's some parts like in the first stage, if you go and shoot some of those like yellow, I'm trying to even go and think of the right way. It's the way to like label them. The yellow targets, you'll get a point bonus for them, and even if like destroy enough of them, you'll get an additional bonus. Just like fun classics like that. There's also certain parts of the stage where if you know where to shoot, you'll be able to uncover some really big points. So it definitely encourages memorization of playing through the game in a way that I feel a lot of newer shoot 'em ups don't encourage quite that level. It's more about mastering the mechanics rather than it is mastering the location of special score items sprinkled throughout the game, or ways of getting additional score. With that said, like Star Gagnant is a title that I want to recommend. Although its main, like as far as the minus flavors are concerned, there's two major ones for it. The rapid fire mechanic is a weird throwback. Honestly, it's not the kind of game that I feel you could sit down and play for a long period of time without wearing out like your wrists in a way that's just not good. So I do feel like that might have been nice to at least have an option to go with like a more traditional control scheme. But like really the big point is like just the price point. So at the game did have an initial like pre-order sale that was actually quite substantial, and basically like a first week sale. But now that that's expired, at least in the North American region, you have a relatively high like price point, especially compared to like the other editing game titles that are available on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know if it's because they were like had to have a different price due to its crowdfunding like nature or the involvement of Takahashi Meijin, but it seems odd that they would be asking for so much for a title that just feels like it's like not quite like delivering on what, at least in my opinion, would be the right amount of content for that kind of price point. But with that said, though, on the plus flavors, so the biggest thing I can go and say for this is they expertly pulled off like the feeling of a modern retro style shoot 'em up. So basically this feels like a new entry in basically something like the Star Soldier franchise. So like that in and of itself, especially if you're a fan of those games or the developer editing games, then I think this would be worth checking out. If the price point's a little bit high for you initially, then guaranteed this one will be going on sale, so you can go and like wait for one of those. But at the end of the day, like say for the price point, it is one that I recommend. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time.